Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. What you're looking at now is a picture of the solar sail deployed on the Japanese probe that was sent and has successfully reached the planet Venus. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. But first, we have found what we think and what could very likely be a UFO that thus far, because the images are so new, has not been talked about anywhere else. And as you're seeing in this image, it's pretty straightforward. This is an image taken by the probe as the sail is deploying, and to the right, sticking out of the darkness, we see what looks like possibly multiple objects. We see almost a formation of, it reminds me of almost like flower petals, kind of circling, a flower, and then below it we have these two smaller dots of light underneath it. And there seems to be a little bit of sort of like a glowing aura around this object, which, again, it's in the background. It definitely does not look like anything on the probe, but again, I would not doubt that because we know that there are aliens in our solar system, and we know for sure we're being visited, and Venus is very close to Earth, and I wouldn't doubt that there would be some activity out there at Venus, especially because Venus, if you've noticed, is very seldomly spoken about. And that kind of makes you wonder, because you never hear about Venus. You hear about Jupiter, you hear about Saturn, you hear about Pluto, you hear about Mars, but you rarely hear about Venus, and you rarely hear the government or NASA talking about Venus. It's almost like there's always been sort of like a media blackout when it comes to Venus. And when something does come up about Venus, it's almost like quickly shuffled off and forgotten. So it almost seems like maybe there is something more to Venus. We're always talking about these planets that are extremely far away from us, the farthest planets out in the outer reaches of our solar system, and the anomalous things that happen there. But then we have a planet like Venus that is one of the closest planets to us. It's literally, in space terms and distances, right next to us. And we never talk about that, and we never hear anything about that. So could it be that there is a reason for this? There's an old joke that women are from Mars and men are from Venus. And there may be some sort of weird, twisted truth in that. Because Venus is always kind of kept on the down low. And it's definitely an awesome and mysterious planet, and we're going to talk to you about some of the strange things about Venus today. But again, we just wanted to show you this photograph first, so let me know what you guys think about that. And take into consideration what we were just talking about this possible media blackout about Venus, because there very likely could be something out there. We don't know a lot about Venus, and we haven't been told a lot about Venus, but we're going to go into that. So basically, the Japanese have just had success in getting their spacecraft to Venus. The spacecraft arrived 5 years after the first try. And we're talking about Japan's Akatsuko spacecraft, which has arrived in orbit around Venus 5 years after an engine failure thwarted their first attempt in sending this probe out. And this is a $300 million mission that was launched in May 2010. Along with JAXA's Ikaros spacecraft, which became the first probe ever to deploy and use a solar sail in interplanetary space. So after 5 long years, this probe has finally reached Venus and sent back the very first images of this amazingly beautiful and dangerous planet. Those images you're seeing here. And if you don't know, NASA has actually already sent a probe to Venus, and we've had pictures of it, but it's always good to have more footage of this planet, because we don't have many. And you're seeing these images here of the planet's extremely strange cloud formations that are actually very different than what researchers had originally predicted. And these unusual, almost bow-shaped cloud formations have appeared to rotate in sync with the surface